Hey friends, let's talk about broth. Here's an understatement. Broth is a versatile ingredient. Broth can go anywhere from being added to a dish just to add a little bit extra flavor, all the way to being the star of a dish, something like ramen for example. Chashu to tamago mo ii. Anyway, I'd like to tell you some of my ideas about broth, starting with a simple vegetable broth and moving on to more complicated broths involving bones and pieces of meat. So this is going to wind up being a series of videos. And the last video in the theory part of this series, say that 5 times fast, is going to be a video on the method I used to make a bone broth. We're going to cook that for a few days. The final angle on all of this is that the broth making methods that we're going to talk about primarily use leftover pieces of food that would otherwise be thrown out. On to the matter at hand. Vegetable broth. The first step is to start saving vegetable remnants from processing vegetables for other recipes. Keep a container of these in your freezer. Save things like the outer layers of onions, garlic, basically anything that you peel before you eat. Any extra vegetables that are getting a bit old are great candidates for this as well. Carrots, radish, or beef tops, etc. Do this until you have enough of these remnants to fill about 1/3 of a large soup pot. Rough chop all the frozen veggies. Fill the pot with water, cover it or partially cover it, and let it simmer away for an afternoon. After the water level reaches about halfway, strain out the remaining chunks of the leftover vegetables. And finally, run everything through a mesh strainer. And then enjoy a little bit of the fruits of your labor. Alright, so obviously you not throwing away that last little bit of green onion isn't going to save the world from impending climate disasters, but at this point, every little bit helps. Look, the main thing here is that you can feed more people with the same amount of food. Personally, I enjoy this process because it's such a big experiment. If you wanted to be safe, you could use the French Trinity, carrots, onions, and celery. Mirepoix. Don't get me wrong, mirepoix is always good, but try other things as well. So for example, in this recipe, I wound up using a bunch of beets that I had left over. I almost never use beets in my cooking, but I had them lying around and it turned out really good. So one of the nicest things about this is just straight up the color. I don't know if you can see it on the internet, but it's got this beautiful burgundy color. In terms of flavor, it's sweet, rich. It'd be a perfect substitute for a beef broth in a veganization of a recipe. The mouth feels great. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. This is part 1 on my series on broth, so I'll be back soon. Until then, stay safe, and don't worry, there will always be enough for everyone. See you soon.